The Overstood Human Podcast, unfiltered dialogue, real solutions, no labels. The Overstood Human Podcast exists to inspire people to live with strength, freedom, and a purpose in a world full of noise and division. We champion a life anchored in true health, strong family, personal sovereignty, and self-discovery, inspiring our listeners to thrive beyond the confines of the design system. Our mission is to inspire you to break free from mediocrity, think independently, and live a life of meaning, resilience, and impact. All right, I am Frank Tortorici.
And my name is Sarah Green, and we are the Overstood Human Podcast.
Sarah, today we are diving in again to the why, because I think it's so important. I mean, the why is going to come up several times throughout this year on this podcast because it intertwines on so many aspects and in levels of life itself. And I think it's very important to touch on what transpired in our lives over the last 5 years, starting in 2020, and what has taken place and why it's so important to be rooted in a person's why because of what's happened in our lives, in our world, locally, nationally, globally. There's so many different layers and levels to all of this. And Sarah, I know when we did one of our episodes on the why, you gave a lot of the listeners some insight into what transpired in your life during that time period. And I think it's an important thing to go back to and maybe dive a little bit deeper into that, because I think there's so many, not I think, I know there's so many people that had their lives uprooted and really had to make fourth quarter decisions, if you will, you know? And I think it's just important to kind of bring that back, to get rerouted into Sarah's why, into the person that we see sitting here right now, what Sarah is doing, what her mission is, what at the beginning of the whole mass hysteria, what was Sarah's life like before it happened, and then kind of segues into where we're at now.
Oh gosh, so drastically different back in, I look at 2019 and I think in medicine, that's my field and that's what I've done since I was about 20 years old, is I didn't see the corruption. I was, through a good friend, slowly kind of being awoken to what the world was truly about, I'd say about 2018. So I was starting to learn and peel off the blinders that I had on. And so when COVID hit, it was, I knew at that moment that it was good versus evil. This was truly God and Satan's battles. And when we read in the Bible, spiritual warfare, it was going on right in front of our eyes. And so I thank God that I was awake enough to be able to at least see that and pick a path that I felt like was on the right side. I know was on the right side. I tried my best. I worked in an urgent care at the time. I tried my best to educate patients coming in what was truly happening. And they, everyone was asking, what do you think of these vaccines? I think that people were actually looking for a provider who was willing to say what they believed. And everywhere they were going, the providers were all saying, you have to get vaccinated and how dare you not? And so I think at that point, for some of my patients, a breath of fresh air, because they were finally realizing that there were some people out there who work in the field who didn't buy into this. And I, sometimes I wish you can never go back once you're awake, but it's easy to put your head in the sand and just carry on and stay in that matrix. And so I pushed myself out of it, and I realized, the evil's all around us. It's not just in medicine. It's not just in the education system. It's not just in the banking system. It's not just in the food industry. It's everywhere. And so my why is really to, well, number one is family, right? My family is so important. And so trying to make sure that my kids stay as healthy as possible for whatever comes. Because I think that there's things coming. I don't want to scare anybody, but be prepared. And then I took a position in medicine because I wanted to help people. I wanted to give encouragement. I wanted to give hope. I wanted to heal. And so I'm so grateful that I saw what was happening and I could be that truth in all that chaos. And so part of my why is to just help people understand that there's so much more out there. They need to, we need to slowly kind of awaken them too, right?
Mm-hmm.
If someone jumped in and told me what I believe now in a matter of a couple of hours, I would have said they're crazy and they're nuts and there's no way. And, people aren't that bad and stuff. And so it really takes slowly peeling off the layers, taking off those blindfolds to see really what the truth is. And so my why is not only for my family and trying to stay healthy and break away from the system and every aspect that the system is, but also help my patients understand and realize that their health, their well-being, it's in their hands. Don't rely on the government. Don't think that they're there to help you. You got to take it into your own hands. So part of my why is just helping. I'm a healer. I enjoy getting people better, and really it's giving them the education because they have to do it themselves. So it's a huge push for me. And every day I'm blessed. I got an email from a patient the other day who has cancer, and it was just the most heartfelt email that on Thanksgiving, giving thanks for me and what I've done for him. And it's not me, it's God that's healing. But he's using me as a means to get to other people and help them in their journey. And that's part of my why, seeing the outcome, seeing the success. And not everything's a success, but it is, in God's eyes, it is, right? We all will meet our maker someday. That day is already determined. But if I can give hope, if I can give healing, if I can give a sense of self-worth to any of my patients and my family members, then that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I know for me, my real aha moment was September 11th, living in New York City, about a mile and a half from ground zero. And ever since then, there's been this fire lit in me of wanting to fight the system. But now as I'm older, there's more wisdom. And with wisdom, I know that, the system, it's not to sound like down about it, but I don't think the system can be beat because it's designed as this unbreakable kind of monster, if you will. So hence the reason for this concept of Overstood Podcast, right? It's like, how do we overstand the system and figure out our ways to navigate through it? The why is such a personal thing for me, but yet it's such a humanitarian thing as well, you know, uh, as a father. But again, back in 2000, I wasn't a father. And when I saw like the I guess like the shocks through society that 9/11 had, especially living in New York, like feeling it like right there. It was really an eye-opening moment for me to be married to this why, in the sense of like, okay, in 2000, I already knew that I was vaccine injured from when I was a child, although no one ever told me that as a child, even though I went into seizures right in the doctor's office.
Sure.
But it wasn't until being able to like piece things together, talk to other doctors, collect as much data and be like, that's what happened, right? Like that was an immediate reaction that even back then doctors didn't have the integrity to just call it what it was, right? It was just ring around the rosy to my parents at the time. So the why is always a thing that's there as a driving force in doing what I do and just being who I am, whether it's on something like this or just people who know me off camera and personally. It's I think like what you said, like sometimes you wish you, I don't know how you just said it, but like you wish you didn't know it, but it's we always joke, right? It's a gift and a curse. It's a bittersweet thing. I mean, there's many a times I'm like, man, like some of these people look so happy that just have no clue what's going on, and like just, you know, yeah, like, why not me? Why can't that be my? But it's all written in the stars, and we're all here for a
Yeah.
purpose. And that's definitely one of the things that I do not agree with. As I see so many people trying to like push me to the side and saying like, just be quiet, just live your life, just go along with it. And it's like, I can't, like, it's just not in me. And as I've gotten older, my relationship with Christ has gotten stronger, and I just feel that as a disciple of Christ, what how hypocritical just to sit in the corner and be silent,
Mm-hmm.
because as far as I'm concerned, if Christ was walking planet Earth right now, I don't see him being silent with his energy and what he was about. I don't when I tap into like that presence of his energy, that's not what I feel. And again, our relationship with Christ is all our personal relationship with Christ. There's no textbook that says this is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what drives our why, a person like yourself and myself, it's like, at the end of the day, it's coming from a place of wanting peace and harmony and love on this planet. But things have to get shaken up, and in order to shake things up, it's no different than like when you. And I forget when I did like my first parasite cleanse. It's like opening Pandora's box. Like
Yeah.
you have to expect turbulence in
Mm-hmm.
order for there to like hit the ground and then be like, okay, we're here now. Like we got through that, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, so I guess what I wanted to ask you is, through all of that, when you were like hit over the head with this, like, oh my God, like this is it. If you can go back to that moment, was it more from a personal thing, and or was it more of like, I want to be the change on this planet. Like, I'm not going to sit silent. Like, what, if you can remember that moment, like, what was it that really like sent shockwaves through your body of like, okay, this is the point of no return, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it was my first time, and this was right after COVID hit, because honestly, I didn't have, the system never pushed back against me in the fields of medicine that I worked in. I worked at a hospital setting. I worked overnight trauma surgery. I went in, I just kept patients alive. And, I never saw a pushback. There was no reason for me to question anything. And when COVID hit, of course, everyone's terrified. I think probably the first couple of weeks I was, just shocked. I increased my life insurance policy. I told the kids to hunker down and this is it, and I
Mhm.
would work in the urgent care and strip off in the garage and put my clothes in the wash before shoes, it was like you were walking into this toxic waste and you had to make sure that you got everything off, because we
Mhm.
only knew what they were feeding us on this thing.
Mhm.
And the media, which is I think the root of all evil, showing videos of New York where you've got just lines of trucks waiting for dead bodies, and all of it was a lie. But so it took me a couple of weeks, and I think it was when I finally told my provider that well, my boss, the facility, that I wasn't going to take the flu shot. I decided, you know what, screw this, like I'm not taking the flu shot.
Mhm.
And that was 2020. COVID had just broken out, but really wasn't anywhere around us. And it was my first pushback with the system.
Mhm.
And the response was, all right, you can do that this year, but next year you'll be fired.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh my gosh, so if I refuse to put that vaccine, the flu vaccine, into my
Mhm.
body, no matter what, like that, first of all, that's the value that they put in me, right? Here I
Mhm.
am seeing 15, 20, 30 patients a day, and I'm just a dollar sign to them. It's a rat race when you work for corporate medicine. It's not about patient care. It's about profit always. And then you're willing to put a threat over a provider that in a year, like they're going to let you go for no reason. I've never been fired. I've never, and
Mhm.
I said, all right, like I'll be gone in a year. So my mindset then was like, wow, I can't believe that I don't have a choice to make in putting a poison into my body. And I had just started kind of waking up to the vaccine toxicity. So maybe a little bit older and realizing that. Um, but that was my first pushback. And it was, and then it just, I kept go, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. And I realized like, it is so much bigger than me, and everyone's coming
Mhm.
down. It's coming from higher up and higher up, and who actually pulls the strings, I don't know. I mean, we know Satan really is the
Mhm.
mastermind behind all of these guys, but that was my first awakening to realizing that everything is controlled. We're all controlled, and we need to break away from that. And I was the only one. I stood on my own. I said, fine. There would be no, providers couldn't write an exemption. Um, I wrote mask exemptions for some kids at school, and the public school system went all the way up to the chief medical officer at my facility to file a complaint for a mask exemption. The entire corporation got emails because of what I did, saying no vaccine exemptions and no mask exemptions to anybody. And I saw like this beast just grow. I'm a provider and I'm writing a mask exemption for a poor little kid who shouldn't be wearing a mask, especially in
Mhm.
PE. And you just saw this thing that for me, it was like this demon that was like coming alive that had been silent because nobody challenged it, even though it was there and controlling everything. And it was, in this, it's monstrous, and it's not just in medicine. But it was as soon as I guess as soon as I stopped complying,
Mhm.
and I've always been one to question, but I never I felt the need to, I believed. And as soon as I questioned, it just cracked open it's like the
Wow.
corruption in everything. So that was probably the first time I realized how evil this was. And I am someone my entire life I've been, I don't want to say stubborn, but I've probably been pretty stubborn and questioned
Mhm.
things. And that was just starting to kind of open up what was truly happening.
So let me ask you
So,
this, because pre-COVID, your viewpoint on medicine, was it, what would you say percentage wise, was it from conventional to say like a holistic approach, like a functional approach to the human body? Where was that at?
well, I think just the field that I was in a field of people weren't there because they were seeking help. They were there for emergency reasons. I was in trauma and surgery.
Mhm.
So most things were unplanned, right? Someone's
Mhm.
in a car accident, a shooting, a stabbing. I worked the mudslides in Montecito. So my field was very limited, and
Mhm.
seeing people come out of that and teach them and educate them outside of their quick hospital stay,
Mhm.
short-term stuff. And so um I myself I've been into fitness my entire life. I
Mhm.
just never really incorporated into that because I didn't realize how sick the world was and people were because of the system. So it took, I think, getting more into probably the COVID stuff is when I realized, my beliefs
Right.
in what I think is true nutrition, and probably haven't been to a McDonald's since I was about 5 years old, maybe a little
Mhm.
older, but
Mhm.
I knew that these things were poisonous for our
Yeah.
bodies. But I didn't understand how many, how, how they grasp it, right? They've got
Mhm.
fingers in everything. And so
Mhm.
it took for me, like, it was eye opening. And I think the good that came out of that was waking people like myself up. Fortunately, you saw it before. I questioned 9/11. I believed the narrative for quite some time, and that narrative
Mhm.
is completely bogus.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't have the wherewithal to question. It wasn't until it was challenged in front of me
Right.
where it affected me
Yeah.
personally.
When it hits you personally, it's a different.
You,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And the moment I pushed back, um, the the gaslighting, the name
Mhm.
calling, the
Mhm.
ridiculing, the how dare you, the talks behind my back. I was like this horrible person with coworkers because I wasn't going to buy into it. I was.
So on that note, through all that, was there at least even one moment where you went home again, took your hazmat suit off, whatever you had to do, and like just kind of sat at the edge of your bed and maybe been like, what am I doing? Like you know, kind of having tug of war within yourself of like, okay, maybe I'm losing my mind a little bit. I'm questioning like the path that you obviously went on? Like, was there a doubt before you really took that, okay, this is it step?
No, no. And
Mm,
I really think it was the Holy Spirit just saying, this is immediately, as soon as everything happened, as soon as this COVID came out, I knew in my mind that, in my heart, in my soul, that it was a battle in heaven. It truly was Satan and God battling it out. And so I, I realized then that I might be walking this alone. I mean, I had people in my life that pushed back.
mm,
And so I guess I didn't totally feel alone. I felt alone definitely in my field. I
mm,
have a lot of friends who are providers and they said, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to take it. And then they folded,
mm,
and they folded because of whatever reason, and when there's a threat of your income completely being taken away,
yeah.
um, it didn't matter to me.
Hmm.
I would have lost everything. I would have lost my house and my career. And I was okay with that.
Hmm.
Um, but I saw so many fold at the end, and
Hmm.
I couldn't. So that was, but it truly was the Holy Spirit. And I just thought, if I'm walking alone in this path, I'm okay with that.
Hmm.
That's okay. And that was their goal. They
Hmm.
wanted you to feel like an outcast. They
Alone,
wanted
yeah.
you, I mean,
Hmm.
I asked providers that work at certain hospitals, and they said, if you didn't get the flu vaccine, they literally black tagged you. I mean, if anyone
Hmm.
knows medicine, you're dead. You would have to wear a black tag on your name badge
Hmm.
to let everybody know that you refused the vaccine.
Hmm.
They labeled you, they called you out. You couldn't eat with everybody, you couldn't sit with everybody. You were, and if you which goes back to the why, like you have to understand and know your why, to the point that it may mean that you're on your own. You're never on your own, right? God is always with us, but you literally may be on your own.
Hmm.
And do you have the strength and the ability to walk that path alone?
Hmm.
Because I think people that think they know their why and they start walking that path will cave when they truly feel like they're by themselves. I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many people said, I did it because I couldn't play bingo. I did it because I couldn't go to parties. I couldn't go on a trip. I couldn't go on a cruise.
Hmm.
Their why isn't strong enough.
Hmm.
They knew it was wrong. They went up, they cried after they got it, but that they're, so you literally have to say, am I willing to die for this?
Yeah.
I am willing to die to prevent my kids from getting that vaccine, or any
Hmm.
vaccine for that matter.
Yeah.
And if you have that mentality, um, then nobody's going to break you.
Hmm.
But you have to get to that. So
Yeah.
I will literally stand in the way of a needle going into my kid's arm if it takes me out. They will never get it. Not while I'm alive, or anything else. And so you have to have that ability to say, like, I will give my life up for this
Hmm.
cause.
Yeah.
This is the hill I'll die on. What about
And
you?
it's so admirable, a person like yourself going through that in real time with your job on the line, and then also processing, unlearning, right, what you thought
Yeah.
to be true, right? Like, I mean, you go through, how many years of medical school did you go through? What, 8, 8, 9 years? Like, how many years of school? I mean,
Yeah.
so
A long time, a long time. And the longer you're in there, the more indoctrination it becomes. So like
right.
the more
Right.
they
So I
can,
mean, you're unraveling all that, and then
yeah.
like making life decisions. You have mouths to feed, bills to pay,
Yeah.
and that's such a testament of like strength, and it glorifies your connection with God, Christ, the Holy Spirit, because you couldn't have done that without that rock, that backbone, and you can't do something like that on your own. Like, you just can't,
No, no.
you know. Um, and I think for me, the gift, and the gift of getting vaccine injured at 8 years old, and then being diagnosed with Tourette syndrome at 8, and now being 47 and still living with it, it it made me become comfortable with not fitting in. So at a very young age,
Yes.
I was very comfortable with not. I was always popular, always had a lot of friends, like, so I was a social butterfly, but like when it came down to it, like my spirit, when I had conversations with the people, they would give the you know, I always seem crazy to them just because of my viewpoint on life and just
Mhm.
the system, you know. And I think that's such an important thing because what I always try to get anyone listening to this that follows my work, or if I've coached them and work with them, this is where, like I say, like maybe sometimes I come off where I'm not as compassionate of you coming up with excuses to not fully commit to your why. You're coming to me saying you want to get off all of your meds, you want to be fit, you want to be healthier, you want to be happier. If it's a man or woman, like low sex drive, they want to improve the quality of life, their relationships, whatever. But then they have all the excuses. Oh yeah, but like
Mhm.
Sarah's a true testament of like your buts mean nothing, right? And
Mhm.
it really is a matter of like cementing yourself into this why, and like everything else can fall apart around you. It doesn't matter. And it's like what I've learned to become comfortable with, and this is what one of the key things that I try to like help coach people that I work with. I mean, I've there's people that have like had that I've worked with have come to me with cancer just wanting nutritional, and they're coming up with butts, and I'm like, dude, like you have cancer, like
Yeah.
nothing should matter, like
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. Try this, try that, like you have nothing to lose, right?
Mhm.
um so you have to be comfortable with the common man looking at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
And when you get to that point, that's to me when you know you've hit like your stride, when you know you're on the right path, because 99% of people that we come into contact with in society are souls that are manufactured by the matrix, by the system, the schooling system, the mainstream news, like the newspapers, like the narratives, the TVs, the shows, right? There's all
Sure.
programming going in on that. And when you look crazy to people who haven't stepped outside of the matrix to kind of try to even begin to see things the way that you're seeing them now, to me, that's just like, that's a moment to like take to pat yourself on the back, like you're doing the right thing. Like who wants to fit in with average people, right? Like
Mhm.
I've never had I've always set the bar up high for myself, right? And I've always wanted to like set higher standards. So it's like to just be common is people who are just common are not really tapped into their why, because they're just going along with what the system tells them to do. And that could have
Mhm.
been you, Sarah, going through COVID. You could have just been a good little girl and did
Yeah.
what you were told to do, and
Yep.
just yes them, and just keep going along with it and just collect your
Mhm.
paycheck. And there's so
Mhm.
many people that I know that did that, and
Mhm.
they're they're still getting their paycheck, but they're not genuinely happy because they see through the BS, but yet they're still having to go to work every day. Because I know a lot of health professionals that saw things but were afraid to shift and do what you did, that had the courage and the strength, or the most importantly the faith to do what you did, and
Yeah.
just kept the status quo. And when you talk to them, you can tell that like they're dying inside, they're not fulfilled, they're not happy. Because to piggyback off of what you said earlier, and this is not to be an alarmist, but you have got to be very ignorant to think that that's it, like we're done with that craziness and life's just going back to normal, we're never going to deal with something like that again.
Yeah.
Like you you
Yeah.
you, you can't, yeah, you can't take that stance. Like it's just not,
Mm-mm.
it's not practical. It's not
No.
practical. But let's just call it what it is, right? It's not practical to view it that way, you know.
Right.
Um so it's just so important to be that. And then I guess my next thing that I want to kind of like ask you is like where you're at now. Like I've heard you say various times you work with a lot of people with cancer,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So what's the why in that? Why the cancer? And also what's the contrast of like how did Sarah view cancer treatment in 2018 and 19 opposed to the way she views it now? And what is the why in that? Why did that shift take place? Why does it exist right now as to what we know now of you?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I actually, so my training was never in oncology or cancer.
Hmm.
And a part of me is actually very grateful for that, because what I would have been taught or indoctrinated to believe would have been that cancer is a disease that requires chemo, radiation, and surgery, and the likelihood of anyone surviving it is very minimal, and never actually looking at a change in your metabolic inflammatory cascade to shift what's happening. And so I'm actually grateful in a way that my education wasn't in oncology. And if you asked me 5, 6 years ago where I would be, it would never have been doing what I'm doing. And I think the reason why it's shifted is I see a need for more and more people wanting to change, wanting another choice, another option. And so when I left the urgent care, I walked out of there. I was so grateful. I got called out by my provider for writing ivermectin. She told me it was not FDA approved. I said it is. It's just off label like everything else, but those shots you want to put in my arm are not FDA approved. And we got into a debate, and I left and I brought back some articles and put it on her desk about the benefits of ivermectin and COVID. And I never went back. And I walked out of there without a plan, but knowing that I actually grateful that I would never have to swab another patient. I would never have to deal with another symptom. I wouldn't have to call another person and say you're positive for COVID. The COVID world I was shutting that door, and God he said, not yet. And so that's all I did. I mean, I literally treated COVID patients across the country for 2.5 years, 2 years or so, and flew to other states to break into the hospital systems to save lives in states outside of California. I had oxygen being delivered to homes all over the US, meeting families in waiting rooms of hospitals to pull patients out to treat them at home. So God didn't just say, no, you're not walking away from this, but I'm going to use you, and this is what you're going to do. And after that whole, couple of years where that kind of died down, and at that point, everybody had COVID. And I think the ones that truly died from COVID didn't die from the virus itself, but from the hospital protocols. 100% agree with that. And so I had so many patients say, I don't trust my provider. No one would help me. And I want you to be my provider. Will you do primary care? I went, oh my gosh, that's the most boring thing in the world. Lab reviews and high blood pressure and diabetes. Like, I was a trauma, surgery, urgent care kind of person. I'm on the go, go, go. And I pushed back on it a while, and I finally just said, all right, maybe this is my calling. And so that's what I did. And God kept leading me. And so he led me to, I understand ivermectin. I probably, out of all the drugs that I've prescribed, I've been a PA for 16 years. By and large, number one drug I prescribe is ivermectin. And I probably send in 10, 15 prescriptions a day for ivermectin. And I realized as I started following, God opens up doors to people that I would never imagine I could meet, and providers who paid it all, lost their license, lost their jobs, lost their marriage, lost their homes, lost everything in their stance for bringing truth to people. And those are my people, right? And so they would do research and start showing areas of using ivermectin and repurposed drugs in the treatment of cancer. And so I decided that if someone wanted to do that and have an alternative, that I would be someone that would be willing to prescribe. And so with that, I have so many that, it wasn't just me, it wasn't just you that woke up, although you woke up before, but people are waking up. And so they want other options. And why not? Do no harm is number one. If I know that what I'm doing is not harmful to somebody, but potentially could save their life, I'm all in. And so if you asked me 6, 7 years ago, never would I ever say oncology. And it really is truly where God is leading me. And I pray every day for my patients. I pray every day, like, God, why? Why am I here? Why do you want me to be in this position? Because We don't save them all. And I truly think, and I believe that my purpose for where I'm at in my practice is to teach about salvation. I truly do. And I think that as my patients come to me with the diagnosis of cancer, and I hate when they identify as that because that's
Mhm.
not them. Their body is in a state of chaos and we need to fix it. So don't ever identify with a diagnosis. That's not who you are.
Mhm.
You're perfect. And so I teach about the promises of God. You know, a promise is death. We are all going to die. Don't fear it. Live the best life you can for Him. And then another promise is salvation. And so if I can get somebody who's on their deathbed and they can ask for forgiveness and they can believe and they're where they're going after this is has completely shifted because of their last months here on this earth, and I can help with that.
Mhm.
I think that's why I'm there.
Mhm.
I truly do, and it's brought me closer. It truly, I was, always I was raised in a religious family, but I ventured in my own path and did my own thing, and
Mhm.
my eyes were the blindfold was completely taken off during the beginning of COVID, and I just knew this was good and evil. And where do I want to lie on this? It wasn't even a question. I knew where I wanted to lie, but um, it's God leading the way, and He's using me. He doesn't need me.
Mhm.
He can heal people. He can do whatever He wants, and but He's using me to spread His truth.
Mhm.
So I think I truly think that's why I'm at where I'm at, and I've met amazing people. I've met you.
Mhm.
Chris was one of my very
Yeah.
first patients, and so it unites the people that believe like you believe,
Mhm.
right? The ones that don't
Yeah.
believe, they're not coming together in unity, and that's another
Mhm.
thing. Like unity, we have to talk about like what is
Yeah.
unity, what is
Yeah.
bridging the gap and bringing people together, because ultimately we're all humans, and we need to be united as one
Mhm.
and not divided.
Yeah, and it just goes to show too how, again, when you marry yourself to your why, what that does for a person's life. If
Mhm.
you weren't married to your why, I wasn't married to my wife, Chris wasn't married to his why, the three of us probably would have never met,
Right,
right?
right,
I mean, so
right.
when you think, this goes to the people who are playing it safe.
Oh
Think of
yeah.
what you're depriving yourself of, the opportunities that you're depriving yourself of that really are, that would resonate with your soul and bring your human body to where your spirit is truly aligned with, to the to the
Mhm.
to the right people. I always say it, these are tribal times, no matter how you
Yeah.
slice it and dice it. And for me, it's not about black, white, gay, straight, this, that, like Christian, not Christian. Like, are you awake? Like, do you get it? Like, do you see what's going on?
Yeah.
you know um and that was the same thing for me, kind of like to complement what you were saying. I was raised Catholic my whole life, Catholic school, and then probably when I was like 13, 14, I was just like, I had enough with it, with all the hypocrisy with the church and these things that I saw. And then just went, on a journey of more spirituality.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until COVID that I started, just like you said. I remember I was working out at home, again, garage workout. The
Yeah.
gyms were shut down in LA, and I'm working out, and I just got hit with like, wow, like this is light versus darkness. Like, this is good versus evil. Like,
Mhm.
oh my God, like I just felt like the presence of like an archangel Michael, like all around me, and like it just hit me, and
Yeah.
then I just started finding, the more I started calling on the spirit of Christ, like just saying
Mhm.
his name, like Jesus Christ, like the more I said that, the stronger I felt with all the chaos that was happening.
Mhm.
And th- that's why, like I say, like my relationship with Christ is more of a spiritual relationship. It's not a religious relationship. um I don't judge other people for having different beliefs. I don't think I'm better because my beliefs are different than theirs, and what the institution of religion tells me.
Mhm.
I always like to
Sure.
say, like, Jesus wasn't a Catholic or a Christian. Buddha wasn't a Buddhist. Like, they existed, and the religions formed after them. So, like, to
Mhm.
be of like Christ is to truly embrace everybody. I'm not here to shut you out because maybe you have liberal ideologies, and I don't. Like the whole, I think we all agreed on this too. Like one of the things we wanted to do with this podcast is bring on people from different perspectives and points of view, because the day we stop having dialogue is the day we really self-destruct. Period.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And you can't navigate through all that and do all that if you're not rooted in your why, because
Mm-hmm.
doubt, all that will creep in. And that brings me to
Mm-hmm.
kind of to my next question. This is more of like on a spiritual side of things, but like when you think of the word fear, right? Because fear controls so many people. And I've always loved listening to, he was a famous boxing trainer, Cus D'Amato, and he trained Muhammad Ali, he trained Mike Tyson. He passed away in like 1987, 1988. But he has a great speech on like fear, how fear is one of the most important things for a fighter. And we're all fighters. I mean, any one of us that answer this call, we're fighters at in our core, or as we wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
doing this. We would just
Mm-hmm.
again be playing it safe.
Sure.
And he says like fear is like a fire, it's a spark. If you let that fire get too big and control you, it'll burn your house down. But if you know how to like tame that fire and control the flames, control the fire with your intention, with your thought, how you move, you can do great things by utilizing fear to for a positive. So
Mm-hmm.
what have you seen in your life, or even with somebody who's being diagnosed with cancer? um, where does fear play a role in that? And have you seen positive aspects of fear for yourself first, and then for patients that you've talked to on a deeper level, where fear's actually been utilized rather than something that tore them down and stopped them from taking that risk or taking that chance?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that anyone who gets that diagnosis, I've never, I can't speak from personal experience, but I think that once they hear that, they immediate is fear, right? I'm
Hmm.
going to die. This is going to kill me. And what do I, and fear will drive you in a negative direction, or you can use it for your benefit.
Hmm.
I think what they get when they come see me is hope. And I can't tell you how many times I've had patients come in and they've thanked me for explaining what's going on, and they feel like that there's hope. And when you help a patient with a disease process, if you don't understand that it is mind, body, soul, it's not just body, right? I can fix someone's body, but if they're caught up in some sort of trauma that happened to them as a child, or they have some sort of underlying undealt with whatever, um, it's going to play a role. And so being able to heal all of those aspects is going to give them a better chance. And you can't, the one thing is when we get someone in remission, they cannot go back to the same environment that put them where they're at.
Hmm.
And we're creatures of habit. And even when it's something that is unhealthy for us, if it's a habit that we've picked up, and oftentimes they are unhealthy habits, we go back to what's comfortable. So being able to, I would never say you're going on a diet. You're going to, it's a lifestyle change, and they have to take it on like that. And so I hope and I pray that one thing that I give my patients, regardless of outcome, is a sense of drive and purpose and hope.
Hmm.
And if, and I've had some that, they unfortunately they come to me kind of, not always, but a lot of times it's their last
Right.
chance. They've failed the chemo, they've failed the radiation, they've completely mutilated their bodies because that's what the doctors told them to do. And cancer's everywhere. And those are really difficult. They hurt you in your soul. It really does, because each patient that I have in my practice, I get to know them on a personal level, and it weighs you down. It weighs my staff down. We're doing it because that's where God has led us. But
Hmm.
um, I've had family members from patients that I've lost, and they thank me. And as they're passing, they say, "Please thank Sarah for giving me hope, for allowing me to live a little bit longer, for whatever it is, so
Mhm.
I don't, God is in control always. And the day he calls you home is the day he calls you home, regardless of what
Mhm.
I do.
Mhm.
Um, but if I can give them a little bit of hope and extend their time here, where they're not living in pain, and they're not hooked up to a chemo IV drip in the hospital, but they're home with family and surrounded by loved ones and know where they're going, and the fear is gone, and the hope is in their eyes to know that they're going to actually a better place
Mhm.
than they are right now.
Mhm.
That it's amazing. And so people come to me with oncologists and those programs, those hospitals, those settings, cancer centers. There's not a lot of hope, and
Yeah.
it's made that way. I mean, you go
Mhm.
into a chemo infusion room and there's donuts and cookies and cake and sodas, and
Mhm.
I have yet to hear an oncologist say that what you eat plays a role in your cancer. Never. They will deny it to the day they die. But a PET scan, which is where they look to see if there's metastases, is a scan that they use and inject you with glucose
Mhm.
to light up tumor cells. So
Yep.
if you're telling me that glucose has no role in the spread of cancer, then why are you using that to see where cancer has spread?
Mhm.
It make sense, right? And so
It doesn't. It
no,
never
so
will.
I mean, they keep you in this system that you'll never graduate. You'll never graduate. I mean, I have patients who have stage 4 cancer spread all over, and they're using my protocol and doing some of the chemo, but they've been told by oncologists that they'll be on chemo for life.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to hear that.
No.
And I have patients who the cancer has completely shrunk. It's out of their bones. It's out of their breasts. In fact, they're doing really good. And they are still being told chemo for life.
Mhm.
Um, and to me, if I heard those words from someone I'm supposed to trust, I'm like, forget it. Let me live the best days of my life. It's not about the quantity, it's the quality of your life.
Absolutely. And
So
what a God complex thing to say to somebody too, right? It's like, oh,
for sure.
you'll be on this for the rest of your life. Well, you'll be dead within 3 months. Like,
And they do all the time.
mhm.
They
Yeah.
do all the time.
Yeah.
And the power of prayer. I'm
Yep.
telling you, I have patients who are very religious and spiritual, right?
Mhm.
And hundreds, if not thousands, of people praying for them,
Mhm.
and they're in remission and they're good. And it truly is. But you have to fix everything. It's not
Yeah.
just a body thing. You've got to fix the soul. You've got to fix what you eat, your
Mhm.
environment, toxic relationships,
Mhm.
um, toxic jobs. Um, Sometimes you have to even move where you live because you're surrounded by places where they're spraying a bunch of pesticides. I mean,
Mhm.
it can be that you have to completely do a 180 on what you're
Yeah.
what you're doing in your life. It's worth it.
Mhm.
It's worth it.
Yeah. And again, like I said earlier, I think just there are so many people who haven't discovered their purpose, and they could
Yeah.
be 75 years old and still have not found it, right?
Mhm.
Because they walk through the programming of what they should and should not do, or how they should or should not be.
Mhm.
And there's no, when you're dealing with somebody who has a grim diagnosis like that, or around somebody who's, the family of somebody who's passed away, it's a very sobering moment, in the sense of, like, when I get that call from somebody of, like, I was diagnosed with this, or I have this, and what do what do you think about that? And again, just like you, I tried to just inject them with hope, possibilities, like, well, just
Mhm.
try this, try that. If it doesn't work, try another thing, try that. But to just keep doing the same things that you've been doing, if it led to this diagnosis, it's like, what's the Einstein quote? The definition of insanity is doing the same things
Yeah.
over and expecting a different outcome. It's like,
100%.
what do you have to lose to try to pivot and shift? But I
Yeah.
think so many people are afraid of change, right?
Yeah, they
Like,
are.
they're
Mhm.
they're their comfort zone is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this falls back to like the practices that I try to teach people. Like, people think I'm crazy because I have a custom made ice bath in my backyard and I take an ice bath like 4 to 5 days a week in a 32-degree water. Like, I want to find comfort in an uncomfortable situation. Like,
Sure.
that's what the ice bath practice has taught me. It's like
Mm-hmm.
my Mr. Miyagi, if you will. It's
Mm-hmm.
when you do something like an ice bath, everything in your brain is like, this is crazy, I'm going to die, this is no good. And then when you start learning how, because everything comes down to the breath, if you start learning how
Sure.
to control your breathing and
Yeah.
finding peace in the midst of chaos, then you realize, like, when you get a bad phone call or something stressful is happening in the visual outside of the world, your brain processes stress, breathe,
Mm-hmm.
breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn how to like take that next step and the next step and the next step. And before you know it, like, there's a whole new landscape of possibilities for yourself. But it all
Mm-hmm.
comes down to having the confidence and the self-awareness and the s- the self the just overall confidence to again be able to stand alone, which is
Yes.
everything you just said that you went through your career and where you're at, was the
Yeah.
willingness, the knowingness to know that you're not alone. First of all, even if visually
Yeah.
you're alone, you're never alone, and you know that in your soul, which is what drove
Yeah.
you to what we see right now. And I can speak for myself. Like, I always knew that. I always felt different. I always felt anointed. I always felt special, and not from an egotistical standpoint, but I always felt like that presence. And I think you and I can agree. Like, when you feel the Holy Spirit, for when you feel the presence of God, it's a
Mm-hmm.
feeling like nothing else. The
Mm-hmm.
goosebumps, the chills,
Yeah.
the tears in
You
your
get it
eyes,
right
the
now. Yeah.
overwhelming feeling of just like, that's like any other drug that you've ever felt that you could have possibly taken in your life. Like, that there's something so much greater than the matrix, than
Mm-hmm.
this human evolution of that we experience here as human beings, right? It's like
Yes.
that, what's that saying, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Like, it's our soul, it's our spirit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what matters. Giving somebody that hope, that's what matters. Because at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, when a person dies, and when you have to go there and help the family clear out their stuff, you just realize all these belongings, like, it's all stuff. Like, this earth
Yeah.
suit, it's all stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
stuff. But like,
Yeah.
it's the soul, it's the spirit, we're here to love, and we're here to help one another, and
Sure.
not tear each other down. And
Mm-hmm.
but again, it takes a strong standing in your why to be able to do something like that. I think we can
Mm-hmm.
agree on that, you know
Yeah. Yeah.
so I guess I want to kind of wrap this up with, if there's one thing from what we discussed today, what do you think it should be that the listeners should really hold on to? Something that you said, that I said, or anything maybe that we didn't say? Like, what's one thing that, ending this, that they should take from this, do you feel?
It is critical to know your why. And when you know your why, you have to also, I think once you finally have it down and you truly are um, married to that why, you know that you will die for that why. Like I will someday die for my why, and I'm okay with that. It's worth it to me to die for my why. And once you have that understanding and you don't fear death, I don't fear death. I I worry about what I leave behind because that's my children are my everything. But I don't fear death. And if the enemy can make you fear death and can make you fear standing for what you believe in, and truly God and Satan are battling for your soul.
Mhm.
God gives you free will. Satan is constantly trying to take our soul. So fear someone who can take your flesh, but fear someone more who can take your soul. That's the devil. So I think when you know your why and you're willing to die for your why, um, you're good. And so getting to that point, um, I mean, I've had the medical board at my throat for it's going on 4 years next month.
Mm.
4 years where people are like, why don't you just give up your license? Let it go. Just be done, move to another state, and I will not. I will not. I hope that they go away. But I'm willing to, I will risk it all for my why, my purpose. And so once you have that, nothing can break it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing can break it. But I think most people who think they've got their why will stand until that last minute and they fold. And then they don't have their why.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
And I think to just finish off with that, I think most people know their why. Their why is like kind of knocking on their door, but a lot of people ignore it too because again of the society programming of what you should, how you should and should not be. And it's just it's just so important to marry to it. And I just want to kind of finish off by saying, for me, I think the takeaway all this, I think it all comes down to the why, but also recognizing the aspect of the word fear, like we were just touching on, because fear is going to block your connection with your why. So you need to get well acquainted with your fear, accept and embrace your fear. And like the famous Customato said, like, learn how to control the fear as a flame. Don't let the flame engulf your home. You must learn how to control that fear. And by doing that, you're able to then to truly discover your why. And then the why becomes truly unbreakable. And there's it's not negotiable. Like Sarah's why, my why, it's not negotiable. No matter what you dangle in front of our faces, like it's not negotiable. It's just not, it's who we are. Like if you take away our why, we die in a sense, because that's why we're breathing. Right. It's a true testament. It's a part of our DNA, and it's a part of your DNA. But it does take the initiative of overcoming the fear and not getting paralyzed from it. It's okay to feel fear. It's okay to recognize the fear, but it's what you do with the fear that matters. And that's what I wanted to kind of leave with that, because we all have things that put us in fear. It's human. We're human beings. There's no way around it. So I just wanted to end with that. And yes, Sarah, thanks for sharing all that. And it's an honor and a privilege to have connected with you and to continue on this journey with you. I know we're going to impact a lot of people by doing what we're doing. A lot of people's souls need to hear this. And this message can be said in so many different ways, because everybody's ear is different of how they're going to receive the message. So we will have other episodes about your why, and it may become a little redundant too, but you know what? Repetition is the father of learning. So it has to be said over and over in different ways. And maybe your ear will catch it on the next one, or maybe it'll caught it on the previous one or this one. But the point is that eventually you catch it. Yes. So in closing, we are the Overstood Podcast. I'm Frank Tortorici.
I'm Sarah Green. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for watching the Overstood Human Podcast. Be sure to join in next week. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Always consult with your physician before starting any exercise program or doing anything contained in this podcast.